People are looking for a way to tap in. They're looking for a way to really get engaged. The level of engagement of folks being involved in different programs and different opportunities, that's probably the most important, exciting part of it. How can I do something beyond myself? And I think that's what we're really trying to do here, is offer up more opportunities for people to really plug in. And it's outside the walls of this church.
When we were doing the flood relief, I put in a sermon about a woman who had a leak in her roof. Right after the service, somebody came down the aisle and said, how much do you need? And I was like, I was just preaching here. I wasn't expecting to come up with a figure. And then the next week, you had enough money to fix a roof, which I think is all about Westminster.
And because of that generosity, we not only did that roof, but we did 2 roofs. One of the things about the church that's always been true is we have a big heart. The congregation has a big heart. We're not afraid to step up, but the key is for the congregation to know what's needed.
Back in 1959, when Sue and I joined, I was told, watch out. If you go to Westminster, you're going to be involved.
We were living out God's commandment, and in return, we were becoming a healthier and more involved congregation. And it's changed who we are, and I think it's changed how we're seen in the community.
That's even with the Joy and Learning program. You start doing it and you realize this is a ministry for the volunteers as much as a ministry for the children. It was an opportunity for my 16-year-old to lead a session and to see her transform and be in a position of leadership, and to see what she came up with in terms of, relating this to young children was really, really something.
As we got through the visioning process, to me, the line that kept coming out was living out the Word. Basically, our visioning group looked at all the places where energy is in our congregation. We brought it back to, where we gather for worship.
That really bubbled up a need for us to say, okay, let's look at this over time, and how do we serve the constituency of this congregation so that our programs can continue to grow and can continue to flourish.
It really changes the way your perspective and how you might want to structure a change in how we live out the Word.
We have lots of ministries, but our building kind of almost makes them feel siloed because we really can't connect ourselves very well to what we're doing. The way our hallways flow is a little difficult to get around, to figure out. We have a young woman who had a brand new infant visiting our church and put her brand new baby in the nursery, went to worship, and was in tears because she could not figure out how to get back to the nursery. And the great thing about it was that she was tough enough to become a member of the church.
Whenever I have a guest or somebody not from our church coming, I'll start to give the directions, and then I'll usually just say, never mind, I'll meet you at the door. I'll walk you to where we need to be.
To come in off of Mayfair to try to figure out how you're going to be a welcoming congregation, or coming into the back of the church, how you're going to be welcoming, is very, very difficult.
This building is used 7 days a week, 12 months a year, 365 days. I mean, it's time for us to really step up and say, how are we going to make this more available for the next 75 years? We're standing on the shoulders of people that came before us that I never met. And this gives us an opportunity to start to look toward my children and my grandchildren and down the road to start to make an impact for them.
Westminster is a place to worship, a community center. It is a unique reach for the soul. And the bottom line is the building is for people, and the people are changing, and the building's got to change. And this program that you're now beginning to develop acknowledges that, which is the next generation of God's gift.
So we're looking at opening up the backside of our facilities for us to be able to be more welcoming for not only the children but also for our services as well. We're also looking at taking the playground from the backside where the children have to cross the parking lot to go to the playground, bring it up next to the building.
I always think, what if one of those little children darts off just as a car is coming through? So I really think that moving that playground next to the church so the children are not walking through the parking lot is a really important part of that.
Our youth program is continuing to grow. I think we've got great opportunities, but to give them the facilities to be able to gather in one space and be able to have breakout rooms in a space that is inviting to youth. Getting youth to come to church to start with is not always the easiest thing to do, but to have space dedicated to them where it is inviting and it is designed for them, it's going to be awesome. Then from Mayfair, what we're talking about here is be able to provide a visual single point of entrance. So there's no question where you enter our church, and then make it more inviting when you come in.
The hope is that as you come up from the street level, that you come into a very welcoming area where there's a welcome desk. The offices are more clearly marked on the other side. And then again, that straight visual line to the sanctuary and through the parlor.
It's more intuitive, more welcoming, allows us to be able to be more inviting to our guests.
Our theme is God's invitation, our response, which is really kind of a covenantal theme. I think of the invitation of God always coming through the Word, that we're invited on Sunday mornings to confess our sins. We're invited to a table. We're invited to go out and preach the gospel. And, so it's easily tied, this great invitation is easily tied to who we are as Westminster.
This church means everything to me. And I mean the people, not the building. And I don't see this campaign as being separate from outreach because they're so intertwined. And I'm called to respond because of God's grace. And there's a hymn, and I think it was one Sunday, and I was serving communion, and we were singing it, and there's a line in it that says something like, "Let me be an answer to a prayer." That one really hit me because I realized that that's what we are. We're answers to prayers. This church has been a big part of me coming to that realization, and the campaign is actually a gift to us because it's a chance for us to really think about what are the seeds that we want to plant and what is sacrificial giving.
I had an experience in 2006 and 2007. I had a bout with breast cancer, and it was a very serious illness. I stood one time right at Christmas time in Sam's, and I had this kind of out-of-body experience that everything I have and all these things I was surrounded with were unimportant. And what did I have to hold on to in the end? It was only God. And this is what's real, and it's what is permanent and everlasting, is the church and Jesus Christ and God and God's love and comfort. That is what we are called to be and who we are. So I feel like right now the church has a need. And the church has not asked us in the past for any significant contribution. And the church now says, we have a need and we need you to step up. This is really not my money. It's not really, it's God's money. So to give a piece of it back to God is, I think, what we're called to do now.
This whole program should be given an opportunity to give, not to give back, but to give forward.
The invitation is not to look at the death on the cross. The invitation is to look at the resurrection. And I think that's what Westminster is all about, is resurrection. How can we resurrect and transform this world? We do it through all the many ministries that come out of this facility. And if we can keep our facilities going for a little bit longer, what a blessing we can be for the future. That's what I'm excited about.